Hello, so we're going to talk about introverts versus extroverts. I'm outside enjoying nature. I have previously mentioned a couple of times about the fact that research shows being out in nature does something positive for you on the inside. So if you are someone who, is in the car a lot or at work and in buildings a lot, it can really help your mental health and all that good stuff if you can just take some time a few times a week to get out when the weather's nice. Obviously get out, go to a park, or if you live in a neighborhood that has lots of trees and birds and all that good stuff, it just does something. So I've been trying to do that with more intention, which is why I'm, instead of being in the comfort of my home sitting down on my comfy couch, I'm actually out here outside trying to practice what I preach. And additionally, something else that I'm doing is I'm actually out here barefoot because I'm actually doing something that's called grounding. Grounding is actually a term that I probably need to define a little bit more for myself. But what I can say about it is it's a spiritual practice where you're just taking some time to get yourself centered, which what does centered mean? Okay, I'm just going to talk in circles. So grounding will be another video, but what I'm doing is basically just trying to connect myself to nature. And the reason why I'm doing it barefoot is because I follow other spiritual leaders and psychologists and people who believe that taking it a step further, not just physically being out in nature, but, walking in the grass barefoot, which some people are going to laugh at, or, hugging trees. My mom actually hugged trees and she's taught me to hug trees. And so hugging a tree or whatever, just connecting with nature can do something good on the inside. And the great thing about that is, although I have not come across research that talks about how walking barefoot or hugging a tree can, do something good for you, there's probably something out there. What we do know is that the research is showing how connected all of humanity is and how connected we are to nature. There's an interdependence that goes on between us and other people and us and other forms of life. And so by being connected to other forms of life, it does something good on the inside. And so boom, I got that checked off for today. So let's get to it. Introverts versus extroverts. All right. So what is the definition of introvert versus extrovert? An introvert, let's take it a step back though and go look at history. Historically speaking, introverts in the past were considered, well, even to this day, they're not the most positive. They're not viewed in the most positive light. But in the past, it was more negatively viewed. And there were different labels that I don't remember exactly what they were called, but it was more negatively viewed if you weren't as social as other people and you were more than likely labeled something other than introverted. So fast forward to now, introverts do have more respect. There is a more positive association with the word. But let's be honest, we still live in a pretty extroverted world. And what that means is, although positive is coming to the introvert, we still live in a society where it benefits you more to be extroverted or to behave in an extroverted way. So let's define what it means now. So now all the research is pretty consistent, and we're going to define an introvert as someone who is drained by social activity. In the past, an introvert was someone who was considered shy. So basically shy, reserved, quiet, all these things, which that does describe a lot of introverts, but that's not the core of what an introverted person is. An introverted person is someone who goes to work or goes to school or is simply around their family and friends, and they get drained by being social. Even if they love that interaction, even if they went out and had a ball with family and friends, right? Or they went to a family reunion and spent a ton of time with family and friends and they just had a great time. The introvert is going to come home and be physically exhausted and kind of want to seclude themselves. Now, extroverts can get to that point as well. The thing is, extroverts have a higher threshold for social activity and typically they're getting energized. So an extrovert, on the other hand, is going to go out and be social, and they're gonna come home like with a boost. They might come home and they might want to stay up and keep it going, or they're not going to feel the physical drain that the introvert feels. So the reason why this matters to me so much is because I was so introverted as a child. Like, I don't know when it kind of wore off. I think high school it kind of wore off. With my close circle, I was pretty, I started to open up a little bit more in my close circle. But beyond that, as a child, I was like, oh, good Lord. Like, I remember even as a kid, most kids want to go and do the sleepovers and have all this fun. And they're just ready to keep going and going and going. Me, I was the one who would fall asleep at like maybe 8, 9, 10 p.m. in a sleepover, but all my friends would be able to stay up, all kinds of nights. So I just couldn't stay up because it was so draining. And then secondly, I was the weird kid that wanted to go home. I was ready to go home. I was ready to have my space even as a kid. Like, I was like, I didn't say it this way, but internally I knew I needed my personal space. So I didn't know what was going on as a kid, but that's what it was. Fast forward to me being a professional, and after graduating from college, I had to figure out what was really going on because I had a very rewarding career. My first full-time job was working at a university, and I got to do a lot of great things. I got to collaborate with staff. I got to collaborate with faculty members and professors. I got to do behind-the-scenes work. I got to do strategic planning. I got to counsel and coach students, which was, my top passion, counseling and coaching. But what happened was, although I was so happy and engaged and having a good time during the day, I would go home and be so drained. And I'm just like, and at the time, I had my oldest daughter. I was with my ex-husband, and I was a little bit confused. I'm like, why am I coming home and feeling so exhausted? And I didn't have any time and energy for them. Let's see, I'm at 6 minutes. And so once I started to really look at the research, I said, okay, oh, that makes sense. So I am someone that even when I'm loving what I'm doing, I'm getting drained for this reason. And what I saw at that particular job at that particular job is how harshly judged other introverts were. So when I would be talking with my boss or other professional colleagues, or we'd have a meeting or whatever, they would talk about the students because we had to assess the students and their leadership capabilities. And, we were interviewing students who were going to get into our program or receive a scholarship. And so when they were assessing them, they would look at an introvert and attach negative characteristics. Oh, that student, I didn't really see that much leadership, or, they didn't talk enough. And it's like, well, look, some of us have a different personality. Some of us are going to observe first, and we're only going to speak when we feel the need to contribute. Some extroverts typically are more comfortable in that social setting, so they're going to maybe speak more, but it does not mean that they are better leaders than us. And there's a lot of research that's trying to compare, introverts to extroverts when it comes to who's a better leader. So that's when I kind of got a little bit passionate about it, because I felt that it was not fair that a lot of introverts get judged and miss out on promotions, miss out on jobs just because they're being perceived in a way that's not accurate. An introvert is just as capable, intelligent, hardworking. They have the same leadership abilities, but they just translate that. They don't show it in the same way that an extrovert does. Some of the research says that 80% of people are extroverted and 20% are introverted, which means we are the minority, which, the minority can often, face challenges if they're not the majority. So that was about 7 years ago when I started to be really aware and passionate about introvert versus extrovert, because it really helped me understand myself and not judge myself as much. And it helped me create more boundaries so that I could be more energized. I had to be more clear with my boundaries. Tay-Tay's good? Okay. And I'm going to take it a step further, though, because once I started meeting with other coaches and counselors and doing some intuitive work with them, a lot of them would say they didn't believe I was an introvert. A lot of them would say there was something else. But it was really hard for me to accept that because I was so attached to the introvert title. And I was actually very proud because I feel like there are so many positive characteristics to being an introvert. I feel like we can focus often, sometimes more than extroverts, because not necessarily, but this is just my experience. I can't say the research says this, but I feel that sometimes we can focus more because we're not so spread thin. We do have those deeper relationships. We're going to commit, more time and energy and thoughtfulness to those relationships because we don't have, typically, you're not going to see us having, as many friends and having such a wide circle as extroverts, although it can go either way. So you got to take that with a grain of salt because you do have introverts. What's up? At the table? Yeah. Nah, you can't leave her like that. Can you put her in the thing? Yeah, just throw her in there and she can have her food in there. My husband's getting ready to go to work, and I don't want her in the house by herself because I got a few more minutes on here. So anyways, he's going to put her in her little pack and play, and she can eat her food. So that's what's going on. So let's talk about empaths, though. So let's transition the conversation. And this is a theory that I have that I haven't heard anywhere else, although I'm sure other people are having the same idea. I believe that the conversation is not just about introverts and extroverts. I believe what's really going on is a lot of the introverts are actually empaths. They have some level of empathic abilities. So let me define that. And I will say too, When I'm going to say empaths, I'm also talking about what some people call highly sensitive people, HSP. So if you Google or YouTube HSP, highly sensitive people, or if you Google or YouTube empaths, you will come up with a ton of information. I am not aware of anyone who connects the two to introversion. Actually, no. Some of the articles do have a list of characteristics and they will include introversion, but I'm almost thinking they're almost one, not exactly one and the same, but they're very closely tied. So an empath or a highly sensitive person is someone who can either physically or emotionally feel other people's emotions and feelings. So let me say that a little bit better because that wasn't exactly clear. So as an empath, I'm able to be around someone, and then when I'm around that person or when I'm in this crowd, I can feel another person's headache potentially. Bye, baby. Love you too. I can feel someone else's headache potentially. I can maybe feel their aches, like out of nowhere. I'm like, why is my back aching or why is my foot aching? Now, some people can just have the physical empathic abilities and not the emotional, and vice versa. Some people can just have the emotional. So another thing that can happen to me, it's a very common thing for me and my mom, and now that we've learned to create a boundary, we don't have to experience this, but another big thing for us was going out and having lunch or dinner in a public restaurant, in a public restaurant or whatever, and feeling sad out of nowhere. So that was a very recurring pattern where when I was going out to eat, I'm like, why all of a sudden while I'm eating my meal am I sad? Like, what the heck? Or why am I feeling like this? Or another example is how a lot of people with, some people, I don't have this exactly. This is not exactly me. This is more so a few other people that I can think about. But some people, when they go out in a big crowd, get anxiety, or they want to, get anxiety. If there's too much crowd, if there's too much, people in a particular setting, they automatically get anxiety. And what's going on with them is if they are an empath, which is my theory, they're actually perceiving way too much emotion. They're perceiving everyone else's feelings, and it's too much information coming in, and it makes them feel overwhelmed. So as an empath, why this matters is, why this matters is because, and I have a psychologist friend who thinks this is valid and has been seeing a lot of the same patterns. Why this matters is because as an empath and as an introvert, if they are one and the same or very closely tied, we have got to know what that means for our emotional stability. If we're out here already having our own emotions when it comes to our own life, like we already have so much going on in our own life, and then we're coming out into this world and we're perceiving and feeling other people's pain, physical and emotional. Can you imagine how hard that can be? And that is why I can go back to my childhood and I can say it makes sense. It makes sense that I didn't want to be around people that much because I was feeling their pain. They didn't have to say, Vanessa, I'm sad. They didn't have to say, Vanessa, like, this is what's really going on in my heart. All they had to do was be around me. And I'm like, I can feel it, And so anyways, that made me want to shield myself from being social. Now I'm at the point where, thankfully, I will give my psychologist friend, Miss Shelley Cardy, all the credit. She's the one that originally taught me, and I've, of course, looked up other people as well, but she's the one that originally taught me how to create the boundaries when it comes to protecting myself. And so I'm actually I'll speak about that briefly, but I can probably do a whole video just separately on all the ways in which you can create emotional and physical boundaries when you're being social so that you do not take on other people's emotions as an empath. And I mean, I will say this too. I'm saying it like empath are just... Well, let me clarify. I do believe it's human nature for everyone to have the ability, some level of ability, to connect with someone else's physical sensations and pains, or emotional pains. Although everyone has that ability, I think it's like a spectrum. And I think some people have a high ability and some people have a low ability. So I think it's human nature to be able to connect and feel if you want to. But I think some of us feel more than what we'd like to. And so that's why knowing that you are an empath and an introvert is important, because it can help you create that disconnect and that boundary that you really need. And so how do you create that disconnect and how do you create that boundary? What you're going to do is find what works for you, because it's not going to be the same for everybody. So Miss Cardy, psychologist Cardy, told me that one of the things that helps her is visualization. So what she does is she closes her eyes and visualizes an energetic boundary. So she is someone that believes that we're all energy. And so when you look beyond the physical, all the research is showing that to be true. Everything is vibrating, everything is moving, everything is energy. So if we're energy, our thoughts and our mind, seeing through the mind has a lot of power. So when you close your eyes and you visualize a energetic bubble or whatever seems cool to you, whatever, your imagination wants to go to, you create that in your mind, and you do that visually, and you get, take some time to, maybe do some breathing exercises and some meditation or whatever, but just get grounded. Visualize that energetic bubble before you go out to work or before you go out in your day, and set the intention. Just tell the universe, just tell the world, look, I care for people. I know I'm an introvert, I know I'm an empath, but I don't care to take on your emotions. I can respect you. I can empathize, which is different than being an empath. I can, be sad with you for a little bit if you need that support, but I don't want your sadness and your emotions to stay with me, okay? So if you tell the universe that, if you set that intention, you do that visualization, that can help. A big one that helps for me, and it helps me really quickly, is actually say a prayer, because, I do believe in God, and I believe in the universe, and I believe you can communicate with God and the universe in so many different ways. And so what I say is, God, especially when an emotion comes out of nowhere, I ask myself, am I being triggered? Is there something in this environment? Is there something that just happened that is triggering me to a past experience that I had that was negative? Let's see, what would be a good example of a trigger? Yeah, a trigger would be, I don't know. I won't give you an example because my mind's going everywhere. Yeah. So if I'm triggered and I ask God, I say, God, am I being triggered by something? And God will be like, oh yeah, this is what happened. This triggered you and made you think about this from your past, and now you feel a little anxious. Oh, okay. Or now you feel a little sad. Oh, okay. Oh, here's a great example. My great but sad example of my cousin who passed. Yeah, so let's say I was out and about and something reminded me of him, but I wasn't consciously aware. Subconsciously I was, so I felt sad. Then I'm like, God, why do I feel sad? What triggered me? He's like, oh, this reminded you of Theo. Oh, okay, now I'm sad. Now I can, pray about it, and I can, acknowledge my sadness and move on. Now, as an empath, what can happen is you can be out and about and pick up someone else's sadness or someone else's anxiety or someone else's physical pain. So when that happens, I say, God, okay, if this is not something that is specific to me and I'm not being triggered by something, if this is not my emotion, if I'm just empathing someone else's pain or someone else's emotions, take it away right now. I've gotten to the point where it literally instantly goes away if it's not mine. If it goes away instantly, that means it was someone else's and I was empathing someone else's emotions. If it sticks around, that means I do that dialogue a little bit further and ask God, okay, what is going on with me? What do I need to explore? Why am I feeling this way? So I'm going to stop there because y'all know I've been talking about my doing it from my phone and needing more space, which someone should have told me to have some common sense, because all I need to do is get a storage card. And so that's what I did. I ordered a micro SD off Amazon. It's going to be here by tomorrow. So that means I'll be able to do longer videos and not rush off the phone. Off the phone. And it won't cut me off, because that's what I'm risking right now. Like, I'm looking down at the time and I've got like 2 more minutes before it says it's going to cut me off. So yeah, so I hope that was clear. Y'all know me. I do unedited, unfiltered videos, so sometimes it can be all over the place, and I'm aware I talk fast and I try my best to slow it down, but sometimes I'm just so anyways, thank you for listening. I really appreciate you. Please share the video with someone else if you think it'll make a difference. I'm actually going to do many more better organized and structured videos. My husband's back for some reason. He must have forgot something, so that will definitely happen. I'll go ahead and wrap it up and see what hubby needs. Thank y'all. Share, and more is to come, and let me know what other topics y'all want to talk about. Alrighty, bye.